Morning, students. Under Cost and Management Accounting 4, chapter number 2, Marginal Costing. Under Marginal Costing, the session number is 5. The topic is uses or practical application and limitations of break-even analysis. See, in the previous chapter, we have studied about break-even analysis, break-even point and break-even analysis, etc. Now, break-even point represents that volume of production where total costs equal to total sales revenue, resulting into a no profit, no loss situation. So that we have studied in the previous session. That is the meaning of break-even point. So break-even point represents that volume of production where total cost equal to total production, total cost equal to total sales revenue, resulting into a no profit, no loss situation. So where the total cost is exactly equal to the total revenue or the total sales revenue. That is known as break-even point. And assumptions underlying break-even analysis. There are certain assumptions underlying this break-even analysis. So let us see these assumptions one by one. 1. All costs can be separated into fixed and variable components. See, and it is assumed that under break-even analysis, we can separate the costs into fixed and variable components, or it is possible to divide the costs into two categories: fixed costs and variable costs. Second one, fixed costs will remain constant at all volumes of output. The second important assumption is that under marginal costing, fixed cost remains constant at all volumes of output. The third assumption is variable costs will fluctuate in a direct proportion to volume of output. Another assumption of this marginal cost under marginal costing, that is under break-even analysis, is that variable costs, you know that there are two costs, one is fixed cost, another one is variable cost. Variable costs vary, so they will fluctuate in a direct proportion to volume of output. That means here, if 1 unit of production is increased, corresponding there is also increase in the cost. That is what variable cost here increases with increase in the volume of output. Then selling price will remain constant. Under this break-even analysis, it is assumed that selling price remains constant. Then another assumption is product mix will remain unchanged. Again, the product mix, we know what is product mix. It remains unchanged. Then the number of units of sales will coincide with the units produced, so that there is no opening or closing stock. Again, this break-even analysis works good when the sales will coincide with the units produced, so that there is no opening or closing stock. That means here, whatever the goods produced in a particular period are sold out immediately, or there is no opening stock and closing stock. That is another assumption of this break-even analysis. Then productivity per worker will remain unchanged. Again, productivity, productivity means the capacity to produce more, or the efficiency of the worker. You know that when the efficiency or productivity increases, cost per unit also decreases. So in order to hold good, that is this break-even analysis, it is assumed that productivity per worker will remain unchanged, or same productivity will remain. Then the last one is here, there will be no change in general price level. Price level also remain the same. So these are the various assumptions underlying our break-even analysis. Then uses of break-even analysis, or we can say that the advantages or merits of break-even analysis. One, it helps in the determination of selling price, which will give the desired profits. Second, it helps in the fixation of sales volume to cover a given return on capital employed. Third, it helps in forecasting costs and profit as a result of change in volume. Fourth, it gives suggestions for shift in sales mix. Fifth, it helps in making inter-firm comparison of profitability. Seventh, it helps in the determination of costs and revenue at various levels of output. Ninth, it is an aid in management decision making, that is, make or buy, introducing a product, forecasting long-term planning, and maintaining profitability. It reveals business strength and profit earning capacity of a concern without much difficulty and effort. So these are the uses of break-even analysis. The next part is limitations of break-even analysis. 1. Break-even analysis is based on the assumption that all costs and expenses can be clearly separated into fixed and variable components. In practice, however, it may not be possible to achieve a clear-cut division of costs into fixed and variable types. So we know that under a break-even analysis, costs are divided into two categories. One is the fixed cost and another one is variable cost. Again, it is assumed that all costs or your costs can be identified as fixed and variable. But it is criticized that, or one of the limitations of this is, costs cannot be easily classified into fixed and variable costs. Second one, it assumes that fixed costs remain constant at all levels of activity. It should be noted that fixed costs tend to vary beyond a certain level of activity. It assumes that fixed cost remains constant at all levels of activity. That is one of the assumptions of break-even analysis. Again, it is criticized that fixed costs tend to vary or increase or decrease beyond a certain level of activity. Third one, it assumes that variable costs vary proportionately with the volume of output. Here in practice, they move, no doubt, in sympathy with the volume of output, but not necessarily in direct proportions. Say, variable cost may proportionately with the volume of output. In practice, they may, no doubt, in sympathy with the volume of output, but not necessarily in direct proportions. See, 1 unit increase in the variable cost may not lead to one unit increase in the cost. So that is what here our marginal costing, one of the aspects, that is break-even analysis, is criticized. The assumption that selling price remains unchanged gives a straight revenue line, which may not be true. Selling price of a product depends upon certain factors like market demand and supply competition, so it is too hardly remains constant. Again, our break-even analysis assumes that selling price remains unchanged. So in this competitive business field, so it is very difficult to assume that or to believe that selling price remains unchanged because of various factors affecting the market. There may be increase or decrease in the demand and supply, or increase, there may be heavy competition, and because of that market price will not remain constant. The assumption that only one product is produced or that product mix will remain unchanged is difficult to find in practice. Again, one of the assumptions of this break-even analysis is that only one product or a product mix is here engaged by the organization. So definitely it is not true. Then apportionment of fixed cost over a variety of product poses a problem. Again, apportionment of fixed cost over a variety of products poses a problem. Again, it assumes that the business conditions may not change, which is not true. Business conditions may not be one of the assumptions of this marginal costing break-even analysis is that business conditions may not change. It is also true. Then it assumes that production and sales quantities are equal and there will be no change in opening and closing stock of finished product. It assumes that production and sales quantities are equal. No change in opening and closing stock of finished product. These do not hold good in practice. Then in break-even analysis, the break-even analysis does not take into consideration the amount of capital employed in the business. In fact, capital employed is an important determinant of the profitability of a concern. All these are the limitations of break-even analysis. So far we have studied the uses of break-even analysis, then assumptions of break-even analysis, uses of or advantages of break-even analysis, and limitations of break-even analysis. That is all about the unit number, that is a session number 5.